is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 6, Song of Susannah, stanzas 5 and 6. The Turtle and the Castle Allure. In these stanzas, so it's Roland's baby. Okay. I guess. Welcome to Unspoiled.
That was a singularly accurate response, I think. That's exactly how everyone should feel about that.
I guess.
Sure. I mean,
I just don't really know how to feel about it, is really what it comes down to. Once it's explained, I'm like, I guess that works in a way, but why is this necessary? And also, I don't, if it just uses Roland's sperm, then why is it a super demon baby? Where's that DNA coming from? Do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah.
Did it just, was it just, the demon was, some kind of weird oscillator that, made that sperm into, a super demon sperm, but it was still, Roland's sperm? How does that happen?
I mean, maybe? I don't know.
She says that once he's born, he's going to age really quickly.
There's a lot of stuff in these chapters. There's a lot of stuff in these chapters and in this book, period, where it's he's kind of playing fast and loose with whatever rules there might be.
Right.
I think probably the funniest example in this book for me is that for no particular reason that we're given and with no explanation, Susannah and Mia find themselves reliving the moment where Eddie and Callahan go into the doorway cave.
Right.
And Eddie notices the thing in the bag. Mm-hmm. And reading it the first time and reading it again now, it's why can't she just find it in the bag? Mm-hmm. I will never understand.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused about there's a lot of things about the way that all of this goes that I'm just sort of why that way though? And yeah, all right. So I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm Natasha.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm Miles.
And this chapter starts off pretty much exactly where the last left off, in that she is still sitting in the park.
Yes.
And what follows is an amazing sequence of her basically hypnotizing a Norwegian man. Is he supposed to be Norwegian or Swedish?
They said Scandinavian of some kind. I'm not entirely sure.
But yeah, I'm really interested in this, because there's this sort of intro to this section, and if you find it before me, help me out, because trying to find things on my Kindle, I should have highlighted it, but I'm not used to using the highlight function on my Kindle.
Sure, yeah.
But the part where she's talking about how Jake made a key and put it in the book, and then Eddie made a key, she calls this turtle a key.
Well, she says that she basically implies that everything kind of, or a lot of these things have a twin.
Right.
And that this little turtle statue that she finds in the bag is the twin to the turtle statue, like the larger turtle statue that she's sitting next to on the bench. And, okay, Here we go. I see it now. So, once upon a time, not so long ago, Jake Chambers had found something queerly similar. And he talks about how he bought Charlie the Choo-Choo because it had called to him.
Right.
And then later he had the key, and then Eddie made the other version of the key. And then just like Jake's key kind of fascinated people when he flashed it.
What did his key... Did it just look like a key? I'm trying to even remember how that went.
I don't remember where he got it. But there was... Yeah, man, because remember Jake gets accosted by that policeman?
Yeah.
And he, like, flashes the key at him, and the policeman leaves him alone, but, like, people start crowding around.
I forgot all about that. Okay, yeah.
So, I don't entirely remember where that key came from originally, but that was definitely its effect.
Okay. Because, I think that was part of what confused me. Was like, I was like, oh, yeah, she's talking about this thing, and I vaguely remember that, but not that well. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's weird because they're having this conversation. Basically, they've just agreed, or, Detta Walker has just laid down the law that they're going to go find somewhere and talk.
Right.
And Mia says, it'll be easier if we do it face to face. Susannah says, how can we? And she says, we'll go into the castle, into that banquet room where I used to have my little feasts. Which is weird to me because later in the chapter, Mia says to Susannah, like, well, how did we get there? And it's like, dude, this was your idea.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. And I think that I let a lot of it slide because I'm just so confused initially about who's talking and with 3 people in there knocking around, it's a little bit disorienting at times. But yeah, I think that was part of why I was just like, wait a second. I thought you were the one that was kind of in control of the situation, but wait, maybe, are you sure that it's Detta that says we're going to go somewhere private? I think it's Mia that says that.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's Mia that says that. But then later...
but then Mia's like, well, how do we get there?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're having this conversation about this place, the banquet, and this is when she mentions that she saw Roland and Jake there, and she had seen them before, which of course is reference, we later find out, to the gunslinger. Mm-hmm. And then as they're, like, trying to figure out, they're just, like, talking about it, so I should say, Mia wants to go, what Mia wants to do is go to a place with a phone.
Right.
And they talk there. And Susannah is, unwilling to disinclined to acquiesce to that request.
Nice. Guys, that was a very, it was a really high-class reference that Miles just made. Very literary.
Absolutely. Yes, certainly. Not at all based on a film, based on a ride. Yeah, so they're just like kind of this impasse where it's like, all right, well, so what are we going to do? And then out of nowhere, Susannah gets swept up into this memory. They find the turtle, the little Scrimshaw turtle. Mm-hmm. And then the Scandinavian dude shows up, and they kind of use the turtle's effect over him. I should say Susannah uses the turtle's effect over him to get him to help them get to a hotel, basically.
Right.
Which is because Mia won't talk. The whole argument was that Mia won't talk until they get to a hotel, and Susannah's like, we don't have any money. Mm-hmm. So that's not going to happen. So they hypnotize this guy, they take his cash, and they get him to go book them a hotel room. It's this very strange sequence where things kind of just like fall into weird place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I always appreciate it when things kind of just work out. Mm-hmm. But I also he's kind of adorable.
He is, yeah.
There's that. But Yeah, I don't know. I just, I feel like I'm just really starting to become more sensitive to what it was that Chris, was saying, which is just that the Deus Ex Machina stuff can be a little bit much.
Oh, sure. And I think, yeah, and like we're getting to the point. What I think is interesting about this book is that, I'm starting to wonder if it doesn't read much better, like, if you do what I did originally, which was just sit down and read the whole fucking thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's so good at pulling you from chapter to chapter. It's so good at, it has a really fast pace, and, like, there's a lot of stuff in this particular part that I didn't like at the beginning either. And I think this book improves as it goes on. But, one of the things I really loved about it the first time was that it just drags you along.
Right.
And when you're being dragged along, you sometimes don't have time to wonder about that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so doing it this way, which I think is not the first time you've experienced this covering books. It's like when you're going chapter by chapter, or even,
right.
I mean, I guess episode by episode is a little bit better, because you usually have, like, time in between them, unless you're, like, Netflix binging something. Mm-hmm. But when you're going chapter by chapter, you really dig in and, like, sit down with the problems and the inconsistencies and the contradictions, and you notice things, that you might not notice, if you're just reading it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was getting at with just I let it slide over me while I was reading it, and then once we start to talk about parts of it, I'm just like, wait,
sure.
What?
Yeah, and there's a lot here that doesn't make sense, and there's a lot that's, like, kind of glossed over, and like Chris said, it's very much like, oh, well, it just works, get over it.
Right.
Which honestly, I don't have a problem with in theory. Like, sometimes I don't care what the explanation is.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely can be that way also. It kind of, like, I kind of talk about this in Harry Potter a little bit. It depends on how much goodwill the author has bought.
Sure.
And I feel recently that King has squandered a lot of the goodwill that he built up.
Kind of burning through it and not replenishing it.
He is a little bit, you know? I'm just kind of at this point like, you're going to need to give me something here, guy, because I've been making excuses for you and trying to explain things away that don't really work. And you keep on just feeding me bullshit a little bit.
Are you a Star Trek person at all?
No, never seen even a single episode.
Really? Interesting.
Nope.
There's Sharon and we really like Star Trek, and we've been watching one of the older shows over again. It's all on Netflix, Mm-hmm. And it's called Voyager, and it was their first show with a female captain. And it's my personal favorite version of the show, and I think Sharon's one of her favorites, if not her favorite. And we were watching it recently, and there was a time travel episode.
Okay.
And usually in Star Trek, like, it's so easy for them to get bogged down in, like, the mechanics of what's happening.
Right.
And time travel is always like, oh god, we can't mess with the past, and we can't do this and we can't do that, and we can't risk changing the timeline. And one of the things I love about Voyager and Captain Janeway as a character in particular is that her attitude toward time travel is like, fuck it, it'll work out. Like, she's like, I'm not even going to try to understand these paradoxes. I'm just going to go do my thing, to hell with all of it, and, like, if the time stream breaks, I guess it was meant to?
All right, sure.
Yeah, which I dig. So, I don't know. It's kind of something I thought of. But, yeah, so there is a lot of, like, things just happening in this chapter. But to me, it doesn't feel... Like, the thing where she goes in a doorway cave feels cheap.
Yeah.
And, like, it really didn't need to be there. But the thing about this guy, Mats, just is, like, he's the first guy who walked around, And, like, at one point, these Girl Scouts or whatever show up.
Oh, my God.
So, this guy and these girls are, like, just can't take their eyes off this turtle.
Yeah. There's something almost, like, creepily sexual about the way that he describes it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I was just kind of like, oh, they're almost drooling.
Yeah, everybody is, like, really... And they have different reactions to it, but they all end up crying when Susannah won't let them have it.
It's just sort of precious.
Yeah. This guy, Mats, he says, I'm second assistant to the Swedish ambassador to the United Nations. My wife has taken a lover. This makes me sad. My bowels are regular once again. The tea the hotel masseuse recommended worked for me, and this makes me happy. I just will not shut up.
I feel bad for him that his wife took a lover, too.
Yeah, but
Up, Mats.
He seems really into this idea of going to these cocktail parties with women in little black dresses, though, so, you know.
Yeah, he seems to be he's making it through.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to be okay. He seems like a really, really rich guy. So, what happens? They scam him, and at one point, so, like, these girls show up, and they're like, can we see it? And she's like, leave, and they start crying, and she's like, leave. Mm-hmm. And then...
I like how that she's not playing around anymore. She could have been like, hey, girls, you know, it'd be cool if you just left, but have a good day.
Right.
And use the turtle to make them have a good day, but she's not interested in any of that.
Yeah.
Which I don't really blame her. It's fine.
And people who are exposed to this thing for too long start talking in kind of mid-world speak. Mm-hmm. Like, when she finally dismisses the two Girl Scouts, they're like, thank you, Sai, long days and pleasant nights.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. Am I wrong? Like, when that first happened, I was like, what?
No, it definitely is. Yeah, and Matt starts saying Sai at some point, I think.
Yeah, when she says, is that clear? And he says something like, yeah, thank you, Sai, or something like that in response. It's, I think, the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then... And there's also this kind of weird part where, like... she tells the girls to forget they saw her. Mm-hmm. And she tells Mass to do the same thing. And where's the... Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. So, she does all this super nice shit for him. Like, she's like, well, I still have you hypnotized. I'm going to make it so that... She's about to say you're going to feel like $1 million, but she figures that doesn't mean much to him. Which
is kind of a weird... Like, it does, though. But sure, okay, yeah. I guess that's fine.
Well, one of the things I love about these chapters is the way Susannah reacts to being in the year 1999. Because she asks him, she thinks about it, she's like, wait a minute, the hotel isn't going to have a problem with me because I'm black, is it? And she thinks to herself, like, you know, it'd be nice if they didn't. It'd be nice if, like, the future was one where that wasn't a problem, but you never know.
Yeah, I liked that moment a lot. Just, you know, her hope. And the moment also when she sees the receptionist behind the front desk.
Yeah.
Who they would have at one time called a mongrel, no matter how beautiful she was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few things in this chapter, just her reacting to being 30 years in the future, 35 years in the future, that I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So, and then there's this weird moment, because, okay, well, going back to what she is doing for him, she doesn't think $1 million is going to mean that much to this man. Whether or not she's right doesn't matter. So, she says you're going to feel like the Swedish ambassador himself, and you'll stop worrying about your wife's fancy man. To hell with him. And, yes. and your bowels are going to function like clockwork for the rest of your life.
Bless it.
And
I
she
love
says,
that she includes that. Thanks, lady. Your pal.
She's like, what's your usual time? And he's like, well, right after breakfast. Well, then. And then she says, except you're busy, or if you're late for an appointment or something, then just say the word Maturin, and the urge will pass until the next day.
Which, like, why the next day? You don't need to get specific, lady. You don't, like, okay, the guy can shit more than one time a day. I think a lot of
most of us do.
So the fact that he's just like, my bowels are regular, I shit once a day, I'm like, you should aim a little higher than that. Maybe have some more ambition. Guy.
Well, like, I would just expect this to be a slightly longer conversation. Like, how many times a day do you go? She's like, oh no, everybody poops once per day. Mm-hmm. When's your time?
Yeah.
You know? Anyway. Sharon is giving me a really weird look right now, for the record.
Sharon, I don't blame you, girl. You should be giving him a weird look.
So, and then there's this weird, like, creepy moment where she won't... He asks to take the turtle again. She won't let him have it. And he's like, well, maybe I should take it.
Yeah, which got me a little bit nervous for a sec, because I was like, okay, is it possible for something else to take them over?
Yeah.
And then later, it turns out that kind of is possible for something else to take them over. Somehow. Something's going on.
Something's definitely going on.
So, I don't know about that, but, you know.
So, they go to the hotel, and, Susannah's also commenting a lot on what people, specifically women, are wearing all around her. She's like,
yes.
you people would get fucking arrested.
Yep. Yeah, I enjoyed that, too.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it's interesting that she's kind of like, you'd get arrested, but there's also, there isn't that much judgment about it. She's just like, well, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
This is weird, you know?
It's amazement, yeah.
Yeah.
She's also amazed by how many of the cab drivers are dark-skinned, and one of them is even wearing a turban.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting. And then there's another great bit where she's like, she sees a pair of women with, like, short skirts, and she's like, these aren't teenagers either. They're women in their 30s at least. And then she's like, well, who knows? They could be in their 60s. Who knows what advanced medical advancements they've made?
Don't I just wish.
Yeah, right?
I wish. Dude, I have these wrinkles by my nose right now that
Oh,
I've just started to notice.
It's fine.
Dude, you don't get to say that.
Sorry.
But it's just it's one of those things that, you know, I guess I always thought that by the time I started to get older, I'd be like, all right, I'm ready now. That's not how it works at all. You're not ready for it. It's been like a second since you were a teenager.
Yeah, true.
You know?
I don't know. It's hard for me to... I don't look back on pretty much anything about those days with like, oh, it was so much better back then, you know, so...
Well, it's not like you don't have to have had a better time back then, but you know you looked better in a lot of ways. Like
I'm not sure I did. I don't know.
All right. Style
Anyway.
aside, you had tauter skin and just a glow, probably.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe you didn't.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't
I didn't. I don't know if I have one now. Anyway, they go into the hotel. She sees a sign that says, as of July 1st, 1999, the New York Plaza Park Hyatt will become the Regal UN Plaza Hotel, another great Sombra/North Central project.
Don't care for it.
Yep. And she says she, of course, recognizes Sombra as in Turtle Bay luxury condominiums, which never got built from the look of that black glass needleback on the corner, and North Central as in North Central Positronics.
Yeah, I'm like... Just this, like, bleed over that's so unexpected is just making me really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really want this to be a little bit... I just want to understand it more, I think is really what it is. I don't get why there are overlaps at certain times and why there aren't at others. Like, is it just chronological? Is it that... Because Callahan was having the overlaps because she recognizes this dude's name that she hears on the phone later.
Yeah.
So is it just kind of from Callahan's time onward that this starts to happen? You know?
I don't know. I mean, it's... When you start realizing that the story is kind of a very, you know, multiverse-centric story...
Right.
It's like, well, anything could be happening, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's... You know, who knows how many different realities there are with how many different changes and which ones link and which ones don't. And it's just kind of like, at a certain level, like, again, like I said before, at a certain level, I understand and appreciate King being just like, this is how it is.
Right.
There are some things, when you get into specifics about how characters are, like, moving and who's talking and who's suggesting what plans, then, yeah, you need to be consistent.
Right.
But, like, when it comes to, like, what version of the universe you're in, I don't know. I'm not sure how much you could even try to be without really over-explaining.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for an explicit explanation. I'm just really I'm just trying to kind of organize it in my head. Because things like this catch me off guard, and not in like the way like, oh, you surprised me, writer. More in the way that I'm just like, wait, what? You know, like kind of, I'm nonplussed. And I'm not really sure how to interpret it. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to sit back and wait and see what happens, which is usually a good idea.
Well, what happens is they go up to the very pretty lady who would no longer be called a mongrel in this time. And she's the desk clerk. And Mats did indeed rent them a room, but Susannah still needs to show ID, so she holds up the turtle. She holds up an Ariza.
Yeah.
And the turtle. She's like, this is my identity.
I really wish that she hadn't. Like, can't you just hold up the turtle and pretend you're holding up... Like, somebody walking by who can't see the turtle, just sees a woman holding up a razor-edged plate. And it's just like, what's going on over there, you know?
Well, they say that...
could have made her think that she saw it without needing to do that, but...
They do say that nobody's around, so that's handy.
Right, true.
And the clerk is hypnotized and then also really wants to hold the turtle. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that starts happening around here is that Susannah loses her balance a little bit all of a sudden.
Yeah, this was unexpected, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
It's a little too easy for her to just have legs all of a sudden.
Uh-huh.
You know? So
yeah, I dig it a lot.
Appreciated that.
I dig it a lot. She's been in control. Mia's been letting her basically have control because she has some idea of what she's doing. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, Susannah doesn't actually have legs. So the longer she's in control, the less tangible the legs actually are. And so they have to hurry over to the elevator so that Mia can take control. And Susannah is like wanting her to do it sooner, but Mia won't do it because she's shy.
Oh my god.
What
a weird thing.
Yeah. Just bizarre. And she says, so the clerk is the one who starts saying the creepy shit.
Right. Oh, I hated this so much.
Yeah. So the first thing she says is Susannah's like starting to leave. But all of a sudden the clerk is like, soon comes the king, he of the eye.
Yeah. And I don't like, I'm just not sure what it is. Is she connected to him? Because I want to feel like looking at the turtle would do something for, like, positive, right? Because the turtle feels like a force for good that's something related to the rose.
Yeah, it seems like it.
But the way that she phrases this whole thing feels like a message from the bad guys. Like they're being like, hey, we're going to destroy everything and there's going to be nothing but a howling wilderness.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, I don't know what is... Like, how... Did they get in somehow via the turtle? Or is the turtle... Or is it more of just a warning when just the phrasing of it sounds like a threat? You know? It could kind of go either way.
Definitely seems to be like bridging the worlds a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like because everybody starts talking, even if they're not threatening or whatever, they're talking, they're saying sigh, you know,
right?
So it's kind of, you know, and I think there is a line somewhere about the turtle like bridging the gaps, but it's interesting that only the clerk starts talking like one of the bad guys,
right?
She says, when the king comes and the tower falls, sigh, all such pretty things as yours will be broken. Then there will be darkness, and nothing but the howl of discordia and the cries of the cantoi.
Yeah, cantoi, what's that?
No idea.
What's discordia? They're throwing this word around this book, too, like it's just been around. Is this the new Kamala? Is that what's happening?
Discordia.
I definitely was thinking of Rihanna a few times.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, this gives Susannah the heebie-jeebies, which it should, because it's super creepy.
And I love this because Susannah really wants to question this lady about what she's talking about, but she can't because Mia won't come up, and she's got to get out of sight so that Mia will take control of the body because she's losing her legs.
Yep.
I like that. It's like, oh god, I want to, but I gotta go over there because of all these weird things happening.
Yeah, that's again, I really like that this is at least something, because so much has felt a little too easy. That him throwing this in here, I approve of it, because her being able to just turn around and walk back and be like, what the fuck did you just say? Not that Mia probably would have let her, because Mia apparently can come forward more and more strongly. But...
Right, alright, yeah. They go up into the room, which is, of course, 1919. Mia's back in control. They find the phone, and Mia says, how do I make it ring?
Oh my god, bless her heart.
And Susannah says, honey, you aren't the first person to ask that question.
Yep, she ain't.
Which I liked as a response.
And it didn't really occur to me because, of course, she doesn't even know how to use a phone. But I thought that she was going to have a number that she could call herself whenever she got to wherever, Right. But no, she's
expecting a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's even spookier because whoever's calling is just going to know where she is. Mm-hmm. Apparently.
Yeah.
Which, don't like that either.
Yeah, and Mia also is illiterate, apparently.
Right, yeah.
She knows numbers a little bit, but she can't read anything. Susannah has to, partially come forward so that they can read the instructions for the safe, which they open. They program the safe with the code 1999, of course, and they open it up and they put the bag with Black 13 inside it. Right.
Good call. Didn't really think about doing something like that, but good idea.
They're like, all right, we're gonna now we can talk. Let's go to the castle, and this is when Mia says, "How do we go there?"
That's right. Yeah. But then she seems to lead the way, right? Like, she asks, but isn't she the one that kind of pulls Susannah?
Well, what Susannah says is, "I'll push, you steer."
Okay, that's right. I forgot about that.
You have an idea of where you're going, and I'm gonna, I guess, use the same ability that's letting me get to the Dogan to get us to this castle.
Right.
But you're going to be the one telling us where to go. Which does make sense. I just want to know why Mia was like, yo, we should talk face-to-face in the castle, way at the beginning.
Yeah.
If she didn't know how to do it. If she needs Susannah to do that.
And why does it have to be there anyway?
It is weird.
I don't understand why they can't just talk in the room, because it seems like they can't. I don't know. I just don't really understand the logistics of a lot of how they're able to manifest to each other as totally individual people in another place, but they can't do it here.
Well, that's the thing. Mia says we should talk face to face. That's the first line of the chapter. But it's but she doesn't seem to have any. She doesn't even have any knowledge of how they do that. She's like, hey, we should do this. It's just bizarre. It does lead to this kind of cool scene, though, where they're talking on the castle. They're on. It's basically is it the Crimson King's castle?
I mean, it feels like it's on the outskirts of it, right?
Yeah, because Susannah can see that pulsing red light, and it almost hypnotizes her.
Yeah, which reminded. Have you read A Wrinkle in Time?
Oh God, yeah. I'm really stoked about the movie. It
reminded me of It a little bit. How there's a light that kind of comes from where it is in the center of the city.
Right.
And it pulses. Almost like a heartbeat, but...
Wrinkle in Time, by the way, that movie looks great.
I'm really, kind of nervous about it, but
I am too, but it looks really good.
It's just, I picture everybody looking much more ordinary, and they're going hard on the, fantastical aesthetic.
That's true.
Which wasn't how I saw it in my head at all. And maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe they can do whatever they want. Everything else will hold up just fine. But for me, the everydayness of a lot of the appearance of things, while utterly supernatural shit was going on was what was so, like, kind of unnerving and disconcerting about the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see. I'm not trying to pass judgment, but it was just, when I saw the trailer, it was just not what I expected at all.
I understand that. I'm thinking specifically of, like, the three wise ladies in that book.
Yeah, definitely.
Who are totally Lady Gaga'd out in that trailer.
They are.
Yeah. Anyway, back to this book.
Mrs. Witch and
Mrs.
What's
It. That's right. Oh,
Good
man.
names.
Did you read the rest of those? Did you read the whole series?
I read everything except there was like a way later one with Charles Wallace that I didn't read.
Oh, okay.
But I read...
I only remember the core four.
I even read the one with the twins.
Yeah, I like that one.
Many Waters.
Yeah, Many Waters is good shit.
A lot of people like shit on that one, but it had a pretty hot drawing of some twins on the cover when I was at the right age for that to matter to me, so I was all about that.
I was really into the all the angels who could turn into different kinds of animals.
Right.
I think it was a gateway for kind of gateway stuff for Golden Compass.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyway, welcome to the Wrinkle in Time series podcast, where we talk about the Wrinkle in Time books. We should totally do that. Man,
yeah,
it's a shame that we both read them all.
That's been on my mind a little bit, is trying to find somebody who's unspoiled for those books, because I would kind of like to revisit them, but they are very... It's been a long time since I read them, and I have no idea how they'll hold up. So.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, there's a book in front of me. So they're like on the battlement of this castle, the allure, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. And Susannah finds herself on like a dog cart, which you can push, which is nice.
Yes, even though it's not nice, and it takes an enormous amount of effort for her to do it.
Yeah. And we learn here that Mia is, as has been previously speculated on this show, super white, y'all.
Yeah, so this is the thing.
Yep.
I kind of mentioned last episode that, like, how could she be, and Jake not mention that to Roland because he was in the dream and saw her, but maybe she just looked like Susannah still in the dream.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know how that goes, you know?
Yeah.
But it did sort of throw me, because I was just like, you'd think that he'd have been able to tell.
I mean, maybe you think maybe he did and he just didn't care?
No. There's no way that you don't, like, take note of a fucking racial change of somebody that is in your quartet.
Well, maybe, like, he noticed it, but, like, he knew it wasn't her, right?
That would make it even more... like pressing to tell Roland, like, there's somebody else here, you know, like, it's one thing with Detta coming forward and being a different personality aspect, but this is like a whole other thing. That feels like a brand new ability / facet / I don't even know how to describe it, that I think would have made Jake a little bit nervous.
You know what else is interesting? Yeah, okay, so Jake I can see commenting on it for sure. Mm-hmm. Roland, I'm not so sure.
Sure.
But, you know the other thing I just thought of? I'm wondering why... And again, like, the answer to this is probably just that King wasn't thinking about it at the time. But, like, I'm wondering why when, like, at the beginning of Wolves of the Calla, when Susannah was being basically possessed by Mia and going into the swamp and eating frogs... She was still very obviously looking like herself and very obviously without legs.
Right.
So I'm wondering if there's, maybe some kind of canon explanation for why Mia didn't manifest physically in that world.
And this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, why can she manifest physically in our world with legs? And why can she manifest physically as in her own entire body in another world?
Well, and which may be just like Susannah's mind.
Maybe. But it, like, when Susannah's coming back, she looks down and sees two women on the bed.
Yeah, it's God, it's just really, it's veering super heavily into psychedelic, like, what is reality kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know that there's an easy way to explain it without being too exposition-y, but then maybe don't do it.
That's, I just, I enjoy the surprise of, oh, suddenly she can do this other thing. That's wild. But when it's completely inconsistent from one scene to another, I don't really know what to do with that. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm also wondering, like, what it must have been like for King's editor doing these books in particular. Because, like, by this point, I imagine, at a certain point with some authors, your editor can't really do anything, right? Because I'm a genius, damn it, I'm Stephen King. And for these books, which were him, like, post-car accident returning to the story that he had started forever ago, and, like, finally he's gonna finish it.
Oh my god.
If I'm his editor, like, if you're Stephen King's editor at this point, are you going, like, are you making a little note in the margins, like, so what about the shit in the swamp, dude? Or are you just going, like, you know what? It's a finished draft.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I felt about a few of his books. Like, it just felt like they kind of threw their hands up and were like, I don't know, it's Stephen King, it's fine.
Exactly. Anyway.
So yeah, I'm really unclear about it because it almost feels like he's implying that the demon or whoever the demon is working with has more of a hold in some worlds than it does in others.
My explanation for this is that Mia is getting stronger and manifesting more physically because of the baby.
Right, okay.
Because the baby is getting bigger and is about to come out.
Okay.
That's my, headcanon. Because that kind of makes sense to me.
So, wouldn't that translate into her still being her own person when she comes back to our world after,
Well, it's okay. So it seems like Mia can't exist without a body to inhabit, right? So let's get into what we learn in this chapter book. Okay. Let's just fold all of this in. What we learn in this chapter is that Mia was the oracle demon thing that Roland and Jake encounter in the first book.
Right.
She wanted to have sex with Jake, but Roland, right, didn't she? Yeah.
No, she did, but I just said...
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. But Roland convinced her to take him instead. Turns out demons are hermaphrodites. Mm-hmm. Or at least demonic, or demon elementals, of which there are only 6 or something, are hermaphrodites. And after it had sex with Roland, it took his sperm, put it in a jar and locked it up somewhere inside its body or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then turned male and went and raped Susannah in the Ring of Stones.
Right.
Impregnating her with Roland's child.
Right.
So...
Yeah.
Couple of things. So first of all, I don't think she can exist physically without Susannah. Because the Oracle Demon thing was not a physical presence, and frankly, the male demon was at least invisible. It didn't seem like it was, obviously it had a physical presence, but it didn't, nobody could see it.
Right.
Right? So I'm wondering if she, if her possession of Susannah, the manner in which she possesses Susannah and the physical way that is represented is changing because of the baby. Because one thing that we do know in this is that Mia is the pregnant one. When Susannah and Mia are in this castle allure looking at each other, Mia is the one who's about to have a baby.
Right.
So, again, that's my, this loose canon explanation.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but it just doesn't make sense that if it's the baby that's doing it, then the baby is still an issue in our world, so she should still be able to manifest as her own person in our world.
Right, but she wasn't as pregnant back then? Wait.
When she comes back, she's still pregnant. As pregnant.
Oh, I see what
After
you mean.
the talk, you know what I mean?
Right, but I think the talk is, like, happening in Susannah's head. Or maybe not in her head, but, like, they go Todash somewhere, right?
Yes.
Don't they go Todash? Because she hears the chimes.
That's how she interprets it.
Right.
But the chimes happen when we travel between worlds through a door, too.
That's true.
Don't they? Like,
yeah.
And
it's unclear.
Like I said, she looks down and sees, like, two women on the bed. So I don't know whether it's real or not, but...
At one point, Detta, I think, actually asks her... okay, so Detta says, you need to think about how she pregnant, for one thing. She say she done fucked Roland out of his jizz, then turned male into the demon of the ring and shot it into you, and then you carrying it, you tossing all those nasty things she made you eat down your throat. So where's she in all this now? That what Detta like to know. How come she's sitting there pregnant under that greaser blanket you wearing? Is it more that, what you call it, visualization technique?
Right.
Is it the same thing as the Dogen? Because if it is, that might explain why this is the only time we've seen her completely separate from Susannah. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. Okay.
The other big problem I have with this. So first of all, pros. Susannah seeing the baby with Roland's eyes was not some manifestation of weird sexy thoughts toward Roland that she's secretly harboring.
Oh my god.
Which is good. I'm happy about that. Cons. So Mia talks about what happened to Susannah in the Ring of Stones.
Right.
And they mention the fact that Susannah turned to Detta to trap it and not let it get away. And Mia says, well, if it wanted to get away, it would have, but it actually just wanted to, it really needed to use you for this purpose.
Right.
And that fucking pisses me off.
Yeah! Because that's, like, all of her power in
That's
that scene.
Great scene. And, like, it's a super problematic scene, and the only thing that, like, makes it interesting and different and, like, worth having a conversation about is the fact that Susannah takes control in that interaction.
Yep.
And turns to Detta, and Detta's like, oh, no, fuck you. And I hate this.
Yep.
I hated it the first time I read it. I hate it now. Mm-hmm. It really angers me.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done it as so this thing wanted to hold on to the sperm, and you wouldn't let it.
Right.
Like,
right.
you know, something like it had a purpose for another, but no, it's all part of its plan.
I mean, Jesus, why not? Yeah, why not make it coincidence? For God's sakes. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway.
Honestly, it feels like King keeps on doing things to, like, depower Susannah. And he's just not doing that with the other characters the same way. And it's just really frustrating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree with you, and it also pissed me off, and it was just disappointing. It's just a bummer. Like, I just expected better.
It's one of those things where, like, I'm just gonna, in my mind, she's lying or wrong.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean,
yeah.
She basically, like, it's supposed to be by the end of this conversation that she's the one, right? That she's the demon herself.
Yeah, that's what Susannah kind of figures out at the end of the chapter. Because, like, otherwise, again, I think I can find that. I knew we were going to be talking about this for some strange reason. While I'm looking for this, I do just want to say that I love, and we've said this before, but the fact that Detta's back is just so great. Detta in this chapter is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of one... I feel like almost like King is aware that he's depowering Susannah, so he's like... disempowering is probably the word I want.
Yeah.
And so he's doing this thing where he's like, well, let me bring up the more forceful of her personalities to kind of try and mitigate this shitty thing that I'm doing. Because she needs somebody who's like, you know, an advocate in some way. And
it almost makes you wonder if, like, this is intentional, because when she talks to the dude on the phone later, he keeps calling her Odetta, kind of like to taunt her. Mm-hmm. I wonder if, you know, and not to give the dude any credit as a writer for all this bullshit, but, like, I'm wondering if he's doing it intentionally.
Yeah, well,
because, like, as Detta is... But again, that doesn't... Anyway, I did find the thing where it says, Susannah says, I'm pretty sure I know who she is. The truth seemed obvious to her. The part of Mia that wasn't either Susannah or something summoned from the Void World to do the Crimson King's bidding, surely the third part really was the Oracle, elemental or not. The female force that had first tried to molest Jake and then taken Roland instead. Mm-hmm. That sad, craving spirit, she finally had the body she needed, one capable of carrying the chap.
Yeah.
So... definitely, assuming Susannah is right, and we have no reason to believe she isn't, this is the Oracle demon. Which is weird because she refers to the Oracle in the third person. Mm-hmm. Mia does.
Right.
So maybe she doesn't know, or has some other reason to do it.
I mean, when she's flat out asked who she is, that's
says she
her
doesn't
response,
know.
is that she doesn't know. So she might be... Or she could be like some like disenfranchised spirit that was, you know, because the whole thing is like that the magic that was in place to hold the beams is gone, and they replaced it with machines, and the machines are breaking down. And maybe she's like a spirit that was like part of that magic that's just bouncing around with nothing to do now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting conversation too, or rather an element of that conversation, is that Susannah talks about saving the tower. Mm-hmm. And Mia just, like, laughs at her. And she's like, has Roland ever told you that what he's trying to do is save the tower?
Right.
And Susannah's like, well, no. And Mia's like, no. He just wants to get there. He wants to see it.
Yeah. Which is a really good point, because, I mean, I've assumed basically the same thing.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I also, like, I assumed that he wanted to save it, but I also kept being like, what does he want? I think was the combo. Like, part of me assumed that, and another part of me was vaguely aware that that wasn't explicitly said anywhere, and I was just trying to figure out what the hell he thought he could do. Because, you know, we have one scene where he, like, sees it across a field of roses, and it's black and, like, foreboding. And I think in that scene I was like, that feels like a way bigger power than Roland is going to be able to, like, what does he plan to do? Just walk up to the tower and, like, stroll to the top and be like, hey, fix yourself. Like, you know? So,
yeah,
but I never really stopped to really ask, because so much of these books has been completely unrelated to the tower. Mm-hmm. Really.
Yeah, she says what he wants of the tower is only to see it, or perhaps to enter it and climb to the room at the top. His ambition may strike so far. He may dream of standing on its allure as we hunker on this one, and chant the names of his fallen comrades, and of his line all the way back to Arthur Eld. But save it? No, good lady. Only a return of the magic could possibly save it, and, as you yourself well know, your din deals only in lead. Which I like that line.
She does not like, which I found funny.
Yeah.
Like, why not? That's the dead truth.
Yep.
And it's not exactly, because she describes it as being like, what was it, dismissive or something? And I didn't feel like it was. I just felt like it was very factual. It was weird to me that she seemed to get kind of offended by that.
Yeah. Yeah, she feels like Roland's trade of hand is being cast in a paltry light. So,
paltry, that's
yeah. What else is important here?
Susannah is basically like, lol, you think they're gonna let you keep the baby.
Oh, yeah.
That's cute. You're an idiot. And it's pretty rough. Like, Mia flips the fuck out. It's like it never even occurred to her. And she is doing that thing that human beings are really excellent at, which is purposefully ignoring anything that does not line up with exactly what she wants to be true.
Yes.
And goddamn if we don't all do that shit all the goddamn time. Every day. Holy shit.
Yup.
We are the best at that. And that's the only thing, like, that kind of made me go, is this the demon? Because that's what she assumes. But it feels like such a human thing to just be in denial like that. And, and be choosy about what you want to hear and believe.
Well, and for whatever reason, Mia is throwing herself into this being a mom thing in every conceivable way.
Right.
To a really extreme degree. She definitely, you know, she says that, like, her son is going to be Roland's doom, and that after he's born, they're not going to need breakers anymore, because he's going to be the greatest of the breakers, and he'll just fucking snap the beams like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, she decides to name him Mordred.
Oh, my God.
She's already picked it out.
Come on.
But, like...
Try for some originality.
but she... You know, at the end, she's like... You know, Susannah says things to her like, hey, you know, you'll die too, and you're, like, damned and lost. And she's like, don't care as long as I get to have the baby. Mm-hmm. Just want to see my kid, and literally nothing else matters.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a really tough spot to be. Like, if somebody really feels that way, you can't do much to... like, it's sort of like trying to argue with the Joker and bribe him.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about that shit, you know?
And then they go back. Susannah tries to, like throw herself at her or something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really know what she was hoping to do there.
Oh, you know, I think it's because they hear the phone is ring. They hear the phone start to ring,
and she wants more questions answered.
At the very least, I think she wants to not answer the phone.
Right. True.
Yeah. So, but Mia is stronger than her and does answer the phone.
I just kind of like I was. When she's like, okay, go ahead and ask your questions. If you don't get to ask them before the phone rings, oh well. And the first thing that Susannah asks is about the landscape. Did you notice that? I
didn't.
It's the first question. When she's just been told, you might not get to ask any more questions. That's the one that she chooses. Is about, like, oh, well, I don't see that. You know, like, did you find it?
If this is the castle on the abyss, where's the abyss? I don't see anything out that way except for a minefield of rocks and that red glow on the horizon.
What are you doing, lady? Why is that the thing that you chose? Don't do this to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's rough.
Just drives me bananas.
So the phone rings. Mia, they go back into whatever their body is. And Mia's in control. Detta is like super active, having active conversations with Susannah and like scolding her for being too slow on the uptake, which is great.
I also like that it seems like Mia can't quite follow the conversation because like Detta's parlance is...
And she really doesn't like having Detta around.
Yeah, she's like immediately wanting to go back just to try and get away from Detta, which I'm just like, that's not how this goes.
And then when Susannah loses the fight against Mia...
Oh my god.
Detta says, ain't you just the most babyish cunt?
Oh, that's a burn.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Detta, I did miss you, girl. I did.
So, Mia answers the phone... And before the guy on the other end can say anything except for hello, she's like, are you going to let me keep the baby?
Oh my god. And he's like mid-sentence.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
Did you? That's never going to get old. That whole thing, it's just always funny to me. I know that it's like been chewed over too long, but I think it's great.
It's. I didn't even think anything about it the first time I saw the movie, and now that it became a thing, I love it so much.
I remember when I was watching it, I was already so irritated at all the changes that they made. But that one, for some reason, still made me so mad. Like, it shouldn't have as much as it did. But I was just so fucking irritated. Ugh, that whole movie. Whatever, it's garbage. Okay. Moving on.
I also enjoy that Susannah recognizes that Mia is afraid of this guy.
Yes.
And that shouldn't be, because she has the power in this relationship.
That's true. And that's so frequently the way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That we, like, are afraid of people when, in fact, we're the ones... And maybe sometimes that's what scares us about them, is that we really should be able to, like, handle this.
Yeah.
And we know that in the back of our mind, like, I kind of should be taking control here, and yet...
Well, and this dude that she's talking to is fucking smooth.
Yeah, he is.
His name is Richard P. Sayre, which we know that name from Callahan's story. He was the guy that sicked all those vampires on Callahan, the vampires with AIDS on him.
I'm trying to think, do you think there's any, like, meaning behind Richard P. Sayre, the name? Like, Dick Sayre. It's kind of close. I don't know. Something there.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Anyway.
So, Sarah's like, she has that outburst. She's like, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? and he just doesn't say anything. And she's like, hello? And he's like, yeah, I'm here. Are we going to fucking start over and, like, conduct ourselves in a civilized fashion? Or am I just going to hang out?
Man, he's so infuriating.
Yeah.
He calls it unseemly.
There's no reason for unseemliness.
Oh my god, how fucking irritating.
And he says, you know where you need to go, right? And she's like, yeah, I need to go to the Dixie Pig. Which, hello.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care for that.
And he starts referring to Susannah as Odetta, which pisses her off. Mm-hmm. And he keeps, like, he calls her a bitch, like, 3 or 4 times in this chapter.
Yeah. What is it about Detta that freaks him out so much?
I don't know. And he quotes Muhammad Ali, changing his name also, which is kind of funny because he misjudges the time slightly.
Yes.
Susannah has no idea what he's talking about. And of course he reassures Mia that of course they're gonna let her keep the baby. Of course they are. Who else would we let raise this child for like the 5 or maybe 7 years he's gonna be a child? It's gonna be you. Of course it is.
Yeah, that's really something, that whole thing. Like,
yeah.
The way that he is able to that's the best way, right? Is to just like play on people's expectations and their own logic. Why would I ever pick anybody else? What sense would that make? You know, and it wouldn't make any sense. You're right. Oh, no shit. You agree with him. Ha! I bet he could never have predicted that.
and then Detta manages to get control of the body herself, which she hasn't been able to do in a long time. And she only does it for, like, a few seconds. And she uses that time.
I don't understand why he gets so angry at this. But goddamn does he.
That's right, darling, that's right. He won't come in your mouth or get it in your hair.
Oh my god.
And he's like, shut up!
He loses his mind. Like, dude, you can't put up with some ribbing from her? You need to get your act together, guy.
Yeah.
Like... It could be so much worse, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, she's pretty funny.
And so after that, Mia, like, locks them away in her mind or something, somehow. Mm-hmm.
Puts them in the brig.
In the brig, that's right. Like Star Trek. Take them to the brig. And also, like, the regular military. But, you know, whatever. So then Sarah is, like, taunting her and saying... What do you say? The bad news is that Mia's chap may not be able to fulfill the destiny of his name by killing his father after all. The good news is that Roland will almost surely be dead in the next few minutes. As for Eddie, I'm afraid there's no question. He doesn't have either Yerdin's reflexes or his battle experience. My dear, you're going to be a widow very soon. And what Susannah realizes at this point is that Mia knows where Callahan was going in Maine when he went there, which would be where the door would take them, and has relayed that information. Right. And Sayer implies that he's called our old friend Enrico Balazar to take care of this.
Yeah, what? What? I just, I'm trying to imagine some dude with a bloody hole in his head walking up to Enrico Balazar and being like, hey, I'm gonna need you to do something for us. And it's somebody that, kind of fucked you over at one point. Are you, supernatural vampire? Yeah. Shh. Don't worry about that part. This guy is gonna kill you. And you don't know it. It's happening in the future. Mm-hmm. Because I can see in through time and space.
I mean...
So trust me and take this guy out for me.
That would be a good incentive. I was about to say, would you tell him that much? But then it's yeah, no, he's going to kill you. So why don't you go prevent that, huh, buddy?
How superstitious is Enrico Balazar?
That's a good question.
That's the main thing that I want to know.
He didn't strike me as the superstitious type.
Yeah, me neither.
So, I don't know. Maybe they promised him something else, too. Not sure.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they promised him some children. Creepy pedophile.
Sure.
You remember that, right?
Is he a pedophile?
Yeah, remember they found that magazine in that safe?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
He's the worst.
We're gonna back a porn truck up to your house and just unload it right there. Go kill this guy.
Right?
So, upon this realization, with good reason, Susannah starts shouting that Mia is a betraying, murdering bitch.
Yeah.
A lot of uses of the word bitch in this chapter.
In this case, I feel it's warranted.
Yeah, for sure. And Mia has to fight her off, and, she does. Mm-hmm. But it's a fight, and by the time it gets over, it's the phone line is dead.
Right.
And Mia is saying, I did what I had to do. As she says later, an eternity in hell is a fair price to pay for one look at my chap's face.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Again, you're dealing with a crazy person at this point.
Yeah, because
I just don't want to see its face. I just want to skip that whole thing.
Susannah's I fucking helped you. I've been pretty friendly to you, all things considering. Mm-hmm. And now, that's fucking over with.
Oh, man. She's Mia, I don't get you. And also the fact that she's white just, makes it all worse somehow. That she's just, come in and taken over this black woman's body as a white woman.
Some get out shit right there.
Forcing her to have a baby that's, an evil, yeah, it is kind of get outy.
Yeah.
Get out.
Oh.
Lady.
Showed that movie to Sharon recently for the first time. She'd never seen it before.
So good, right?
So fucking good. Mm. The first time I saw the movie, I watched the whole thing with, one hand in front of my face, peeking through. And, not during, bloody, gory parts. Just during the racism. Mm-hmm. I was oh, God. Oh, God, you just called him my man again. Stop doing that.
We voted for Obama. That line just kills me.
Would have voted for him a third time if we could have.
If y'all wouldn't just, if you haven't seen that movie, Rashawn, I tried to get her to watch it in the theater because I knew that she would just love it, and she did not make it happen, and she finally watched it a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and she's like, why didn't I watch this in the theater? I'm like, girl, when are you going to learn to trust me when I give you advice like this? I know. Be so good.
I just realized we were talking about this, and I just realized the Oscar nominations came out today.
Oh, right. Yeah, he got nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, I think.
Is that what he got?
Yeah.
Is that all they got? Sucks. Oh, well, still.
Yeah, you know.
I guess it's something. Anyway, I think that's basically the chapter, though. Like, Susannah's locked up in her own mind. Mia's a traitor who is going over to the Dixie Pig to have a baby, and that's about it.
Yeah, that is about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else is going on here. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to bring up as, like, a possibility. Like, so, obviously, it feels like Jake and Callahan... Okay, so let me back up, because this is the thing that confused me. Now I'm realizing and putting it together.
Okay.
Because she sees a flash of... Is it Callahan that's, like, at a deli or something?
Oh.
And so it seems like he got through and he's, like, around where Calvin Tower is, right?
Yeah, what she saw was as simple as it was terrible. Per Callahan buying a piece of salami from a shopkeeper. A Yankee shopkeeper. One who ran a certain general store in the town of East Stoneham, Maine in the year of 1977. Callahan had told them all this story in the rectory, and Mia had been listening.
So, that's the part that kind of confused me. So when she sees that, that's the past and not where Callahan and Jake have gone through the doorway.
Yeah, I think when it's like she sees it, I think it's kind of her, it's her realization.
Okay.
Because what it says is Susannah caught a sudden, brilliant glimpse of something. It was like peeking beneath the hem of a circus tent at some bright wonder, or a dark one. That feels to me like a light bulb going off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like something clicking into place.
Right.
So she realizes that Mia knew where Callahan had gone, and so knew that that was a place that Roland and Eddie would go. Now...
Can you say that again? Because I lost the whole end of that. She knew where Callahan had gone, so...
And so she knew that was a place where the others were likely to go.
Okay. So likely to go, but she doesn't actually see for sure where they went.
Right.
Because it feels like they didn't go where they were intending to go. So it's possible that the information that Mia shared is not correct at this point. Right.
And that's my other question, too, is like clearly Roland and Eddie were going to come to New York.
Right.
But they ended up, not being able to do that. So I don't know how... I mean, I guess it makes sense if, like... Because if they went to 77 and in Susannah's time it's 99, I guess they would know about it. Right. So, I don't know. But yeah, that definitely, I think she just realized that Mia had the information as to where they were likely to show up if they used the door.
Okay.
I think that's...
Okay. Well, y'all, I'm having trouble getting onto my Patreon page for some reason, so I'm not going to be doing new patrons this week.
Okay. Well, hi to all of you anyway.
Yeah, hi to all of y'all. Thank you all for becoming patrons, if you did. And I swear to you, I will read your names next week. I also want to let you all know that the website is up and starting to run again. It's jogging. And there's going to be some changes because previously there had been a separate blog post for every episode, and it was really not practical with... I am a content machine.
Yeah, you are.
And I cannot have individual posts for everything when I produce 340 posts per year that are all in a certain very specific categories. It's not practical. So what I'm doing instead is the homepage will now be all the show logos, and you will click a logo and it will take you to the complete playlist for that entire show. The end. No posts, no separate artwork. I enjoy doing the artwork and the stills of shows, so I will still continue to do those on the Facebook page and on Twitter. And I guess on Instagram I probably will continue too. But I won't be doing that on the website anymore, so that when people need to go back and listen to old episodes of something, it's not an infuriating exercise in clicking back and forth in and out of posts. And, just one straight playlist will be so much easier. Especially, I know a lot of shows had too much on them for the iTunes feed to even show all of them. Like the Song of Ice and Fire feed was so long that the early episodes are missing now on iTunes, and people had to go to Libsyn for them. So I'm going to try and get all of the Song of Ice and Fire episodes up on the website so that people don't have to go to Libsyn. Not that, Libsyn's easy to use, but it's nice for it to be on the website where people would expect it to be. So, yeah, just keep that in mind, everybody, that when you go to the site now, it's going to be different looking. And if you don't already follow us on Facebook and you like the artwork and stuff, you should do that and keep on seeing it. It's facebook.com/unspoiledpod. Follow me on Twitter at unspoiledshow, Instagram at unspoiledpodcast. And I just did a thing where if you share a post that I made of the upcoming February patron postcard, you will get a chance to have that postcard sent to you, even though you may not be a $10 and up patron. So share it, like it, yada, yada, yada. And I might send you one that's got my little curly old signature on it with all my extraness. Because that's really what it is.
Extraness.
It's extraness to the nth degree. All right, Miles, take it away.
All right. Well, y'all can find me on the Smash Fiction Podcast, which is a fun little show where we debate who would win in fights and stuff between fictional characters. The episode that's currently top of our feed as we record this is actually a new thing that we're doing. So if you're a Smash Fiction listener and you haven't listened to the first episode of Smash Metafiction, oh yeah,
nice,
oh yeah, it's kind of a thing that we're doing kind of as a break in a sense.
Okay.
Because we all live very busy lives and have very busy schedules. What we're doing is just turning one episode of Smash Fiction every month into something a little bit less research intensive and time consuming.
Okay.
And so they're kind of games, they're different things. We did the first one, it's called Collaboratory. I wasn't actually on it, but the other major hosts, for the most part, were. And it's a thing where each of them brought in a fictional character and an item of story, like genre or setting. And nobody knowing anything about it beforehand, and then after what they had brought was all revealed, they basically described how they would make a movie out of it.
Right.
Following a certain set of movie scripting format, in a sense, from a book called Save the Cat. It's a lot of fun. The first episode's called Here There Be Dragons. It may or may not have Godzilla in it. I'm not at liberty to say it this time. But you can go check that out right now on the Smash Fiction Podcast feed. This upcoming week, we have a regular Smash Fiction match. In this case, it is The Phantom of the Opera versus Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
That one is one that I really need to watch because my friend is going to be having a Tim Burton-themed wedding, and I am going to be dressed as a character from it in her wedding party.
Oh boy, really? It has to be the Tim Burton one, huh?
She is a major fan of Tim Burton, and so the entire wedding, she's going to be the corpse bride in her wedding dress for her wedding.
Okay.
Yep.
So don't watch it.
Don't watch the Demon Barber of Fleet Street?
Don't watch that version of it.
Why not?
Because it's not good.
But I'm going to be Helena Bonham Carter in the red and white striped beach dress.
Fine, watch it. But after you're done watching it, go watch the version of it they made a movie where they just recorded the stage play with George Hearn and Angela Lansbury, and it's so much better. It's so much better, you guys.
Noted.
Yeah, because, like, yeah. I mean, not for nothing, but they, like, I don't hate Tim Burton, but he fucking whiffed on this one, in my opinion. And I didn't know how badly he had whiffed on it until I saw the Angela Lansbury version. And then I was like, oh, now I understand what my friends who have seen this are all upset about. Anyway. Yeah, Phantom versus Sweeney Todd. It's fun. There's a shit ton of singing in this episode, as you would expect. I'm pretty sure that every single person involved in the episode at one point breaks into song. So, if you want to hear that madness...
I'm just kind of like, that's not the thing to say to me to get me to listen. But
oh, come on.
Know,
you don't want to hear me spontaneously break into song? Come on.
I don't want to hear anybody. You could be anyone, and you start singing, and I'm just kind of like,
Not a musical person, huh? You realize Sweeney Todd's a musical, right?
I know. Why do you think I haven't seen it yet? I'm watching it for my friend's sake. I wouldn't do that to myself.
Oh, God. All right. Anyway, so that's coming out this coming Sunday. God, that movie's terrible. Anyway, that's coming out this coming Sunday, and then the week after that, I think is going to be the next episode of Extraordinary League, which is the other thing we do on that show. It's a ton of fun. We play fictional characters in a role-playing game setting, and it's a great old time. You can check out the Patreon page for Smash Fiction if you want to become a patron at www.patreon.com/SmashFictionPodcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, and email. That's not a social media client, but still. And then you can also find me on the Universes of the Mind blog that I do, quote unquote, that I quote unquote write. Which I have definitely...
Why is that in quotes?
Because I don't think I've written anything since, like, November.
I mean, the things that are there, you did actually write.
I did write them, yes. The things that are on Universe of the Mind, I did write. That's the website where right now I'm going through Hugo winners, books that have won the Best Novel Hugo Award, and I am going back and reading them chronologically and writing about them extremely fucking slowly. In fact, we might have to do something about that and transfer that that basic concept to a different format of some kind in the near future. I'm not sure what that format might be, and I definitely can't say anything else about it right now, but it might have to be done. Also, on a side note about that, Natasha, I don't know if you know this or not, but Ursula K. Le Guin died today.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, God, really?
No.
You don't know who Ursula K. Le Guin is?
No, who's that?
She was the first woman to win a Hugo Award for Best Novel. She's the first woman to be named a Grandmaster of Science Fiction. And she has written a number of books that dealt... through a science fiction lens, dealt with issues like race and class and gender and oppression in some really, really cool ways. And she started doing that shit in the fucking 70s, if not before. And she is just like she was a shining paragon of like what science fiction could be, especially for like in terms of expressing the problems in society and extrapolating them into the future, and also like talking about solutions. Natasha, there's a book called The Dispossessed that I think you would really love.
The Dispossessed.
Okay. The Dispossessed, yeah. I mean, she's written a ton.
Yeah, it's weird to me. Like, what else has she written? Because I genuinely, like, this isn't ringing any bells.
Have you ever heard of a book called The Left Hand of Darkness?
No.
Okay, she wrote that. Have you ever heard of the Earthsea series?
That one might be something that I've heard of.
Okay, she wrote that too.
But not enough that I can really say it for sure.
Yeah, well, if you ever get the chance in your, I know, not at all busy schedule, I would strongly recommend that for some book club shit, by the way. I know you've got the whole year planned out. But
Yeah.
but for the future, like going in 2019 maybe, or just fucking check it out. Like if you haven't read, you and everyone else out there, if you haven't read Ursula K. Le Guin, she was a fantastic writer. She still is a fantastic writer. She's just dead now. Left Hand in the Darkness, The Dispossessed, and A Wizard of Earthsea, and that whole series are just like, in terms of what she did for fantasy and science fiction, it really can't be overstated. And she is, and you would love her. She's totally up your alley. And I can't, she died like peacefully. She was like 88, but it's just a shame. She is one of the true greats. So,
well, I'm sorry to hear that to everybody who knew who she was and to whom she meant something. I'm sorry that I was not more, what's the word? That I can't be like in on that with y'all.
It's okay.
Because I feel like I'm raining on the grief parade a little bit here.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, a lot of people got mad at me about my reaction to Chris Cornell dying.
Who was Chris Cornell?
He was a singer. I didn't like him.
Oh, okay.
That's about all there was to it.
I'm just like everything everybody mentions lately. I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I'm realizing that I don't remember people's names also is the bad one. So you could be like, the guy who did such and such, and I'm like, oh, and he was in XYZ, and I will know his like back catalog, names and things that he was in, but I will not know his name at all. And that happens a lot. And I'm just starting to be like, I don't know what that means. What does that say about me?
Probably not much.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, sure. Like, it's like, one of the reasons I did the whole Hugo thing was because I realized I was at fucking Worldcon. I was at the World Science Fiction and Fantasy Convention to cover it for a respected journal of stuff, of journalism.
Journal of stuff. Indeed, sir.
And
very, very respected of stuff.
And I was there, and I was like, sweet, I get to go to Worldcon, I'm such a huge sci-fi fan. Wait a minute, I've never read any of these books. Who are you? And I was like, I know who all these people are. It's like, wow, I'm meeting Joe Haldeman. I've never read any of your stuff. I have lots of your books. I've just never read them. It's so nice to meet you.
That's something that I don't relate to. I don't buy books and then not read them. I've heard so many people talk about that.
Oh, I do. Or I half read them.
I've got so much sitting on my shelf that I haven't gotten to yet. And I'm like, I buy a book when I'm ready to read it. And I read it and then it's done. I don't buy a bunch and just not read them.
Oh, that's crazy. I buy books because I like having books, and then eventually I read them.
Yeah, I don't like having a bunch of clutter when it's not, like, it doesn't mean anything to me yet. So, I think I own one book that a listener sent me that I haven't gotten around to, but I didn't buy it. It's sort of, to me, like, books are almost like a consumable, like groceries. Like, you don't get it if you're not ready for it. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense to my brain, So
I'll be ready for it someday.
Allegedly.
I mean, yes.
When's that happened?
I don't know. I mean, I have, hey, I've had this book for a long time, I should read it now. Like, I have done that. It's just not probably as often as I should have. But,
okay.
Whatever. Anyway, the point is, all of you should go to www.universesofthemind.com and check out all the stuff that I write about science fiction and other things. And also you should go to the Odyssey Story. It's so bad. It's like, I get paid for this shit, and I'll always forget about it. But Odyssey Storytelling Podcast is another thing you guys should go listen to. OdysseyStorytelling.com. Again, it's the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast. It's something I host and produce about people just telling stories about their lives from here in Tucson, where I live. And if you just like stories, like they're funny, they can be sad, they can be intense. I've been moved to tears by the stories at Odyssey. And it's kind of a labor of love that I do it, and I mean I do get paid, so I guess not really a labor of love, but I do love doing it, and I do put a lot into it. So yeah, go check it out. It's the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast. And finally, I just want to say to Jamie and to Nate and to all the rest of you out there, fuck your football team until the end of time. Just want to say, I refuse to merely sit back and admire the greatness, as so many pundits and sports radio personalities have been encouraging me to do since this weekend occurred. Now, fuck you. Go Eagles, and I will be rooting for fucking Philadelphia, of all teams, so hard in the Super Bowl, y'all. I don't know if you know that, Natasha, but Philadelphia's in the Super Bowl.
I do know. Believe me, I have friends from Philly on my feed.
I believe you. So
the most recent episode of Overdue was recorded the night that they won, and they were like, "We apologize for the fireworks currently exploding outside our window."
I saw a tweet from somebody, a Philly fan who's a sports pundit, the night they won, and it said, "To all of you who live in such Philadelphia neighborhood, please enjoy the last night of such and such Philadelphia neighborhood."
Oh my god.
Anyway, yeah, fuck the Patriots. That's all I have to say. Fuck
yeah,
them
I mean,
up the
I'm
ass.
originally from Connecticut, so that should be where my loyalties lie, but I don't care. I am going to root for the Eagles, man.
Yep.
My adopted city of Philly is where my heart lies.
Yeah.
And just frankly, just whoever is against the Patriots is probably going to be who I'm rooting for. Let's just face it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important moral stand to take. And but, congratulations to the refs. I want to say. Big win for them this past Sunday. Big win for the referees. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And
they're good friends, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Good friends.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, all right.
I'm not bitter.
With that, I will end this weird conversation that we've devolved into. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. My apologies again for not being able to get to you new patrons, but I will. And we will see next week with how many more chapters, Miles? What do you think?
Let's do... So next week is going to be our last our last double chapter episode.
Okay.
After
two
that...
2 chapters next week,
After
everybody.
that, they get bigger. But 2 chapters next week.
All right. We'll see you next week. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.